Hello everybody. Today I want to talk kind of holistically about personal development and or spirituality as they kind of dovetails or contradict in a lot of ways. But yeah, I'll talk a lot about my own journey and a lot of thoughts I've been having recently, what I've been learning over the past year or so, and just updating my whole kind of thing here. Because when I began my channel, of course, it was really like fueled by like actual spiritual and psychedelic awakenings, many of them, and it encouraged me to share, which many people can relate to if you've had similar like mystical experiences. For example, I had a trip with 3 friends in Wales, and one of them only had one trip previous, and he was going to take 4.2 grams of Liberty Cap psilocybin magic mushrooms this time, the same dose as me. He was confident he knows what mushrooms do, and I'm like, yeah, but they're infinite. And I predicted what would happen actually. But he took them and he slowly started like going, oh, these mushrooms aren't like the ones I remember. And I'm like, yes, because they never are. Be very careful if you ever think you've got a one-up on psychedelics, because they're way bigger than you could ever imagine. To an extent. I mean, I'm very confident now. I've had over 100 high-dose mushroom trips, and I'm very confident and familiar with them, but I feel like you have to be familiar with the territory. But so I'm going off track, sorry. So yeah, when that friend come down from that trip after completely like losing his shit into like non-duality and just being completely incoherent, he said he wanted to share with people what he discovered. And this is kind of how I describe like the origin of preaching a bit, is like it's more like someone's actually found something that's like literally the holy grail and liberation. And especially when it's psychedelics, it's like no one knows about them. Very rare people in this culture. I've not really met one, and I look very hard. You have to seek them. So yeah, sorry. I mean, yeah, I just wanted to share and start my channel after meeting the psychedelics. But so I got really into the psychedelics and things, and had very authentic spiritual awakenings. And that's when I began my journey here as the spiritual version of OXSN myself. Started uploading loads of videos, but it wasn't just, it was spirituality, personal development. Those are the main two, and then the psychedelics, self-help, any other name you want for it. So before the psychedelics and the spirituality, I was very familiar with the personal development scene, especially on YouTube. Like as I was growing up, actually that's not the same computer actually, but I'd always had computers when I was growing up, and I found, I was very curious as well. I'd always type in a lot of things into YouTube and things, just like, what's the meaning of life? And I'd find people like Jordan Peterson when I was maybe 14, 15, and slowly over time I've cultivated much more an appreciation and integrated a lot more with the intellectual field. And over time it led down different public intellectuals. So I'll just name a few. If you're familiar, obviously, then this video will be more epic for you. So we got, I'll name some of the grounded Westerners, and then the metaphysical, whatever the fuck you want to call them. So we got Jordan Peterson, Hamza, Captain Sinbad, Better Ideas, Denmo, if you want. I don't know, there's Iman Gatsy, or whatever the fuck he's called. Well, technically you could say Andrew Tate, but you know, there's loads of these, and I'm not really, and so there's them, man. And then the spiritual people is like Terence McKenna, Ram Dass, Alan Watts, Actualize.org, or Leo Gura. So I was getting into the personal development, and then I got into the awakening, and I found how personal development, so like all of these Western, man, like Hamza and that lot, they are missing one of the biggest, well, I mean, they've spoke about them briefly, but these man are missing psychedelics. They're like the quintessence of existence and personal development, like, but no one knows what they are yet. They're like still a secret in a way, but it's a real secret, and that's what makes life like clearly so genius. Like, I love how like there seemed to be a missing link as I was growing up, and then I found it, which was psychedelics, and then the whole culture has no idea about them, and I've literally experienced like pure magic and non-duality and enlightenment and shit like this, and like radical states of empowerment and complete madness, and the whole fucking spectrum of and God realization and things like this, to an extent. And it is like the real secret. But this isn't what I want to talk about really. So I mean, I may have not started this like the bestest way I could have, but what I'm saying is that here we've got the personal development, but we've also got spirituality. So actualize.org is the best synergization of the two fields. He's very holistic with his personal development. Watch what is actualize.org, the big picture of personal development. A video under that title dovetails very nicely with this one, and I've deemed it to be basically one of the most important videos on the internet. But what I'm saying here is, so we have Hamza in there, man, and Hamza's motto, which is, again, he's just like grounded Western personal development. He's like, do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. And then we got Alan Watts, who's like way woo way, doing not doing, don't force, let the universe do everything for you. You kind of like, he says like, if you treat life as something that you ought to have done about it, or you ought to do about it, it's a drag. No one really has any fun, because we all act as if you must keep on going. And that's true. But here's what I want to talk about, is that I want to talk about sacrifice and the bigger vision of yours and my life. Like, what are we pursuing? Why? What's worthwhile? I've always thought, like, before I really set out in a direction, I want to know who I am. I want to know that it's what I really want. Or, and of course, Alan Watts always says you can't know what you want. I don't know. I think that, you know, it's never like you agree 100% with any public intellectuals. It's normally there's facets here that you agree with. Like, you cherry pick what resonates with you often. So yeah, I'm very familiar with many contrasts, and like I can really appreciate the subtle nuances and differences with different public intellectuals, and even spiritual schools and teachings. So nothing's ever as black and white as you once thought it was. I think evolution through time, I think, is very much tied to growing complexity. I think through time, God realization actualizes, which means that your understanding of reality and yourself gets more and more holistically interconnected until it merges back with the one that everything came from. This is divided infinity, in a sense. But we won't get into those metaphysical things just now. So, I think there's a balance in a lot of ways. Like, say, some people, like, there's a clip of Leo Gura from Actualized that says, he's talking about how the spiritual people and, like, the vast, you know, like, have you seen the non-dual kind of people on YouTube? There's loads of small channels, and they go, there's nothing to do. Not just them, just in general, you know, there's nothing to do, like some spiritual teaching. And then Leo Gura says, that's the stupidest shit he's ever heard. He said, you're alive because there's loads of stuff to do. And it's funny hearing these different perspectives, because it's you can take them on. Like, once you could have thought, yeah, there's nothing to do, and then you can hear someone else disagree with that, and you go, oh, fuck me, maybe you're right. So it's like there's nowhere to stand, really. Opinions are fluctuating. I used to not really hold any opinions for that reason. It's like ignorance is bliss. So I guess what I'm speaking about here, and this is overall like what I've been contemplating for a while. So, as Alan Watts says, like there's always this voice in most of our heads that we should be more than we are. And then David Goggins and Hamza and all the Western grounded personal development geezers would be like, yeah, you should be. But they'd also kind of like invoke and create and promote this kind of self-hatred nearly. Like, yeah, you should feel like shit if you look like this. You should feel like shit because you're playing video games. You should feel like shit. You should feel guilty. Use this as fuel to better your life. Andrew Tate says this. And I understand to an extent. And I've got really into certain teachings and then really into the polar opposite. Conor Murphy is actually a good combination of both teachings as well, where he came from the Western personal development shit, and he was very much an ego. He was bodybuilding, and then he took ayahuasca and he completely lost the plot, and now he's like, I just eat what I want. There's nothing to do. Everything is perfect. So I guess that metaphysics is relevant. I think I've basically come to understand as truth. And this is very important, actually. I've thought about this a lot. Is how I don't understand how reality could not be perfect. It doesn't make any sense to me. In the most absolute sense. But then again, we live mostly in the relative domain. So therefore, it's kind of like what Andy Anderson said. She would like eat junk food because she's like, well, there's no free will. So I could just eat junk food. And what I'm kind of saying is like, I believe in the divinity so much, or that I know in the divinity so much at this point. I know that God is real. And we may not have the same definition of God, keep in mind. But I know in the divinity and the grandest structure and of the highest brilliance of everything that is here. So in this way, I feel like you cannot fail. And it goes into some deeper, I'll make a video a lot about it in the future, a lot more, but it's about forgiveness and a lot of, like, I feel like forgiveness is almost at the bottom of reality. Love, like nothing's anybody's fault in a way. You just do what, you act on your desires, you do what your brain tells you to do. People really can't see that, and I've always known that. That's why I won't go deep into it, yeah, but once I stated, and I know don't put any pressure on me for this statement because I'm not going to get into it now. I'll do it in the future, but it's actually a lot deeper than you might anticipate. But I was almost like, you know them videos of like the pedophiles that get caught and shit, like in the street, and they're like, you're meeting a fucking 8-year-old, bruv. And it's like, obviously I get it, but to an extent, I don't, when you take into account, does anyone even have free will and no self and shit like that, it's a lot more nuanced than like, you're a cunt, and then you just beat them up or send them to jail. It's like, they might have just been in a really low state of consciousness, I don't know. So here's an important insight. I do not think it's wise to stall and be indecisive on your decisions. Is there really a distinction between what's voluntary and involuntary? Supposedly not, as Alan Watts says. However, I don't think it's wise to get hung up on this. Take action. Do the fucking dishes. Don't like, I think in the end, everything is ultimately where it needs to be. Reality is perfect. There's nothing you can do about this. But I also think, like, when you start questioning if you have free will or not, like, it really ruptures the personal development. And I think, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this in general, is spirituality is a lot more about letting the universe come to you, and Western grounded personal development is a lot more about being hungry, going out, seeking, getting, like, beating nature into submission almost, dominating, winning, getting money. Well, I mean, I'm pretty confident now that you want to succeed. You want to be more than you are, right? Potentially, maybe you want to be famous. You want your music thing to take off. You want, what do you want? You want to be a public intellectual. You want something to go your way. If it did go your way now, that thing that you've been hung up about for years, do you feel like you would have deserved it? Do you think you would be ready to take it on? How is it going to actualize into the dream that you've always wanted for so long? Like, if everything was to finally click into place as you wished it did for so long, what would that look like? And if it did happen all of a sudden, therefore, if it just happened almost on its own, like the universe come to you, would you feel like you deserved it and you could kind of embody it and actualize it? What I mean is, my shit on YouTube, I'm trying to be a music artist and I'm trying to be like a public intellectual and a spiritual teacher and personal development, blah blah blah. Or an internet friend. If this is like, because I have this hang up where I constantly, for the most part, over many years, I've felt like, yeah, for the most part, unless I'm meditating in presence, it's like I'm not where I need to be, where I need more money, there's stuff I need to do around the house, there's a lot of personal development shit I need to do, there's stuff I need to say, there's favours I need to do, there's money I need to pay, there's all this stuff that I need to do, therefore I'm always like, I'm never, it's like a background worry where you're not where you're meant to be yet, where now is not exactly okay because I've got success to get. And if I don't get success, then this moment is not really where it should be, and I should feel like shit for that, is what a lot of Western personal development people say, for the most part. But what I was saying is about, would you feel like you deserve it, is like, you think that maybe you just want everything to come to you, like the universe just brings it to you, and you don't have to work for it. But actually, maybe the working for it, or at least the illusion of free will that you're pursuing, and you took action, gives the ego the kind of righteousness to kind of own the achievement. Because if it just comes to you, you didn't actually really do anything, and you can't say, look what I did, or look how cool I am. And I think you're allowed to have an ego in a lot of ways. You're allowed to go, I thought, like, not long ago, like, I was going to, like, quitting weed. Today is one of the first days I haven't had a joint in a long time. For many reasons. I'll read you a post in a second about that I made the other day. But I was thinking, like, one of the main things is like, why should I want to quit weed? And this is a very important point, one of the most fundamental things of this video, so this is an important insight in a minute, but hold on. I remember, yeah. So I was like, I spend like all day, every day for the past like month at least, full blast smoking like copious amounts of weed, no baccy, of course. And then I thought, like, why should I want to stop this? I love it. I love being in nature, listening to music in the sun, sitting by the lake, smoking weed. It's brilliant, especially after a hard day of work. Why should I want to stop this? I can be loads cooler than I am, is what I said to myself. I even said it on a psychedelic trip a while back. Why am I not content? Because I can be a lot more than I am, is what the mushroom said to me, if you want to say it like that. And you're allowed to be a lot cooler than you are, you know what I mean? You're allowed to have an ego. But one of the, right, so I believe I might be running out of storage nearly, but I'll sum it up with one of the most important insights here. When it comes to addictions and instant gratification in personal development and stuff, like, I want to smoke weed. Again, we're talking about sacrifice here, and it ties into what I was just saying, is you should want to quit weed. If it really holds a special place in your heart, having a wake of bake in the sun, sitting by the lake, listening to music, okay, brilliant. You're allowed to do that every now and then. But also, like, what do you really want? Is it possible you can know? I'm not sure exactly, but you should want to stop instant gratification because you're sacrificing the good for the great, or the instant gratification for the delayed gratification in the bigger picture. Become a lot more of a longer term thinker and fall in love with executing life in an intelligent way. So it's, I could be in the days right now and go, oh, I should buy more weed, I should go by the pond, I should sit and smoke, oh, it'd be so good. And I do really want that in one way. I actually made a video called What Do You Want, or what do you really want? And that was over a year ago. And I was saying basically this is, yeah, that's what you want, but what you really want is money, clean a house. And it depends, I'm not saying the weed is responsible for all the negativity, like it's a mixture of it. You can smoke weed and be very conscious and use it holistically and integrate it good, or you can smoke weed and sit on your phone in a bad posture, eating sugar like a dickhead. You know what I mean? There's a big difference, and you could be smoking skunks weed with pesticides and genetically modified shit. So, big difference. But yeah, I think you should want to cut down on video games, habitual smoking with no utility, in a sense. If you want to do that and you'd rather capitalize in this way, like Alan Watts says, would you rather have a long life spent in a miserable way, or a short life spent doing what you love doing? I don't believe that those are the only two options, but it's worth thinking about. Is, should I grind and have it really ought to do something about this predicament here, and make it a drag, as Alan Watts says? Maybe, unless it won't be a drag, because if that's what you want, like, it can be a drag unless you're really into it, like, unless you're so focused on the vision that you really want it. But at the end of the day, I think if you want to play video games and if you want to smoke fucking crack, it doesn't matter. I think that a quote from Alan Watts is, the universe is basically playful. There's no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. That is to say, it doesn't have some destination that it ought to arrive at. And I take this as well. You can eat junk food, you can do whatever you want. It's your playground, your sandbox, your infinite sandbox. The mind of God. It's just a play. It's just play. But yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. It's just that there's motivation to not so there's a lot of motivation to do an instant gratification habit. Because it will be pleasurable. But at the same time, there's a lot of motivation to not do that, because it might not be what you want, because you don't want to be in the same place in 3 years. Therefore, there's a lot of motivation to not do that. Also, do you see? It's easy to think, oh, it'd be so much better if I could just get what I want, instant gratification, but not really. And something that I learned from Ram Dass is that it'd be just as interesting if you didn't get your addiction fulfilled as if you did, in a lot of ways. The main thing, I think, is this. When I found actualize.org, or got very serious into personal development, well, I was actually very depressed when I first made my channel. And I think the main reason why is now very clear. Is because of this idea that Hamza promotes and actualize.org, etc., to an extent. Is that you should feel like shit if you're not taking action. And I understand, to an extent. I was going to make videos, but I mean, I've been very low in the past, and I live with my mum currently, and I could get in states in the past where, like, I don't do my obligations around the house, and I feel horrible about it. Like, I don't like making a mess and just, like, you know, smoking weed and going to bed, and it really gets to me. So I understand, like, maybe, yeah, you should feel shit about that, you know? You can't, like, live with your mum and just destroy her house. Yeah, feel like shit about that, I guess. So, but I'll tell you what the main thing is. This is the main point that I was making over the past minute as well. Be gentle with yourself. Slow time down and breathe. Be thankful for the fresh air. And love is the answer. I was so disconnected from love. And it's likely that you are as well. It's like no one teaches you what love is or how to love or anything, or the importance of practicing love. Where I was just in such a fear paradigm for my whole life. But it's love and compassion and self-understanding and, you know, yeah, to an extent, yeah, be hard on yourself, you know, like the accountability mirror. That's useful, it's very good, but at the same time, like, you have to be, in a way, you have to be ready for it. If I'm having, like, a full-blown mental breakdown and shit, and like, it means I can't clean the house and stuff, like, hating on myself is just going to make that a lot worse. And these Western personal development channels don't understand the energy shifts that happen when you have real deep awakenings. For the past 2 years, my soul has been completely fucking torn inside out, to the point, like, where energy is shifting constantly, and I'm literally, like, swimming in schizophrenic seas. Like, the shaman drowns in the same seas that the schizophrenic... The shaman swims in the same seas that the schizophrenic drowns. And I've been drowning for a while, but right now I'm coming up for air. And it's taken me months. Like, I've only lived here for about, like, 5 months, and I've seen a gradual from the dark to the light. When I first got here, it was very dark. It was winter as well. And now, finally, I feel like I'm a lot more grounded. And it's likely I haven't been doing too many psychedelics or mushrooms, because I was really abusing mushrooms a lot. Hey, darling. So yeah, I think it's important to just be gentle with yourself. Trust the process. That's one thing, is that... Hey, darling. Hey, baby. So yeah, I think that's one thing, is that if things aren't seemingly aligning right now in your mind and stuff, like, you might not think that you are where you want to be, I believe in divine timing. I know in divine timing, because I've been in it, where you may feel, oh, why am I not motivated right now to do the stuff I need to do to succeed? I'm gonna fuck my life up and end up in a rut and then just die. Like, do you really think that the universe just spawned in just to fuck up and be depressed and then die, and then loose ends are never tied? That's not how all loose ends are tied in the end. Divine timing is where, even if you don't feel like you have the motivation or anything to do what you want, it will come to you. So you might feel like you're in a predicament and your behavior patterns are so solid and you keep going around in a cycle. It will evolve, or you will learn to understand that you don't need what you needed. There's always a way around it. And it will happen. I love you. Yeah. Trust the universe. But not so much where you trust it or you just lay on the sofa. It's healthy to take action, but I think trust that, like, don't trust that, like, you can just literally take no action, but trust the universe where you will learn to take action and you will love it, actually. So it's not like you trust the universe where you can just take a step back completely, but it's like you only use muscle at the right time. It's kind of like what Alan Watts says. So it's you just don't stress yourself. Overall, know that things are bigger. There is a higher order. I know this. There 100% is a higher order, and this really I would call God. And this higher order has got your back, because why would the universe fuck itself over? Why would the universe invent itself just to play the cruelest game on itself? When what it does is it makes it think that this might be the cruelest game, and then all will be revealed. It strips you of so that you suffer, and you're separate, and you're needy, you're divided from the Godhead, and you're deprived of your whole. So then maybe I'm just an atom on a rock floating around, and maybe if I don't delay gratification, I'm just gonna get depressed and die. And even if that does happen, the moment of your death, something like this, I can imagine this. Imagine you laying in the hospital and you're about to pass away, and like everyone's around you, yeah. And the moment you pass away, everyone stops and go, "We got you, didn't we?" Or something like that. And then like everyone's faces just like turn upside down and shit. And then like, also like I that's what I was imagining. Like because when you die, I can imagine all loose ends are tied. Like 100%. When at the Godhead pinnacle, there is like a holistic all-knowing. But I feel like, who knows that when you die, that will be the transition into infinity? Who knows that you won't die and then wake up in another matrix and go, "Oh wait, that was just a psychedelic trip," or "That was just a dream," and now, "Oh wait, I was just dreaming the whole time," but now you're like in some alien body, and then you do it again. Maybe you wake up again, and then like the third death is the real one, where you realise that it was all just a dream, like you created it in God mode and then pressed play, and that's why everything's finite. Like in the level editors. But yeah, I can imagine something like death is where the answers are. But yeah, I can imagine like as soon as you die or something, like you don't just go straight into metaphysics. Like maybe you could die, but like, because what I was thinking is every single person says you will die. Like, I know death is an illusion in terms of you're an infinite shapeshifter, and there isn't really a death. It's just the eternal self of the universe, as non-existence does not exist. And your separate, like, false ego, like smaller ego self, is ultimately an illusion, and there's only the bigger self. But yeah, I feel like like, imagine if, like, because the thing is, everyone says you're gonna die, but this is just like the most, like, the quintessence of like a joke, in terms of, like, wouldn't it be funny if you didn't? Everyone, like, even all the spiritual teachers are like, you will die, this body will die, and yeah, I get it, impermanence is likely, obviously, the one occurrence is impermanence. It disappears and resurfaces. All is temporary. Don't worry, it'll all change momentarily, surely. But yeah, like imagine if you got to the point where you died, and then like instead you just fucking unlocked telekinesis, and you could just materialize anything, like as if you still stayed in this world, but the moment of your death was the moment that you realized that you were truly God, and that all limits were removed, or something like that. But yeah, sorry, I'm going off. I'm going to read you this post now about quitting weed. And this will sum up what I was just speaking on here. The whole video, basically. This is basically what I'm talking here. So here we have... Here's my new fucking logo, by the way. That will be like a love heart. That's not what it's meant to look like. Why does it keep doing that? That's weird. Why has it got so many? What the fuck is going on? What the hell? Where is it? Where's the fucking weed post? What the hell? Here we go. So I wrote this the other day when I was going to enter monk mode, and then I just made a Minecraft Let's Play, which will be out soon. I got a Minecraft series coming out. It was actually very much fun, but here we go anyway. I'll read this for you. So I'll just read it like this. Why I now choose to quit smoking weed all day, every day, for a long time at least. I have the rest of my life to live. Wake and bake, wedding cake in nature, in the sun, by the lake, listening to the hardest tunes will always hold a very special place in my heart. However, this is just one facet of life, one fraction of infinity. There is so much to see. What I'm speaking on is much deeper than just quitting weed. It is the lifestyle that many have around Wake and Bake 24/7. I was and have been an extreme case for years. For a long while, on and off, I've been spending all of my free time and money smoking full blast. Average about 4 grams a day. I'm sure there are wiser ways of smoking weed. I love weed and will always big it up as it is the bestest thing ever, and is healing medicine and metaphysical and such a vibe and so chill, and you could sleep forever and it is total bliss, and it is definitely the bollocks, and if I wasn't poor I likely wouldn't stop smoking the way I am now. But ask yourself, is it worth it? Everything comes with a price. Fall in love with executing life with a big brain and bear smart or high IQ things. Fall in love with intelligence. Living with intelligence. So yeah, I thought I'd just write some blog stuff here forward, as it might be cool as I feel I'm in a new phase of my life and growth. But yeah, weed can be very epic, but not when you just smoke it, sit on your phone, eat junk food, oversleep, spend way too much money that you don't have. Therefore, sacrificing everything else. Spending too much money that you don't have, therefore sacrificing everything else. This is what I mean. There is so much to do in life. Novelty, seek, try new things. I love Wake and Bake, but not full blast at the cost of a lot. Here we are learning about sacrifice. Sacrifice the good for the great. Delayed gratification over instant gratification. If you work 9 to 5 or a wage slave, and you go home and smoke 3 grams, 2 grams or more of weed, aka about £30-ish, that's like over a third of your shift for most wages. So if you hate that you're a wage slave, but you go home and smoke most of your daily wage, investing time is long, dealers are cunts, your room is a mess, you gotta buy Rizzlers and Kings and fucking Backy maybe, and you're pursuing nothing. Take a break from weed. You did not need it growing up. I know it is epic, but there is huge value in taking a full step back for a long while just to see. Come back with a more mature attitude. Learn to integrate your time with the plant better and track yourself better in general. Sacrifice. Here is an old video of mine talking on the benefits I reaped from quitting weed for 6 months last year. And the video is called Quitting Weed Can Be Mega Valuable. Smoke and chill general talk. You can find that on my Rumble. rumble.com/lowercase user/uppercase-oxen. But there you go. There's that. That's it. Your attachments and your addictions and your instant gratification bad habits. The motivation to drop these is what lays on the other side. Old keys don't open new doors. You should be excited to drop. It shouldn't be a burden to drop your addiction. You should be excited to finally be free of the cycle. You should be excited to see what is over the horizon. You should be excited for the novelty to come your way. When I first quit weed for 6 months last year, it was the most crazy transformation in my life. But I love weed. I know there's a lot of benefits to it. It's a balance. Time is the teacher. Go on and off. Experiment. In 20 years, kid, you're gonna look back and wish you grabbed it all by the throat and said, fuck it, it's only rock and roll. Yeah, alright, I'm out of here anyway. Thanks for watching, gamers. Check out the fucking YouTube channel. Uploaded this one earlier. Got a lot of things going on. Obviously, I'm on Spotify as well, and Google Podcast, and SoundCloud. Check out my music. I'm on fucking TikTok. So yeah, but this isn't my main YouTube channel. Fucking YouTube deleted my main channel. So, but yeah, I go way back. You can see a lot of shit on my personality. Go way back. Old tunes that no one knows about. You see, when I was called Scylla, the whole thing. All right, I gotta go. I love you. I do.